Miss Tilia, could you just put it? Yep, perfect. Thumbs up is great. Hope everyone's well fed and well rested from the beautiful Christmas period, spending incredible time with family and friends. There's nothing more beautiful than being able to spend time with people that you love around Christmas, and really see if anyone's not muted, just mute yourself, because there's a little bit of feedback. Spending time with loved ones. Hang on one sec. Is absolutely the most beautiful thing we can do. So I'm going to be very quick on this introduction, but I'm going to try my best to really get you guys you ladies and gentlemen, to feel what you're about to hear tonight. So my name's Steve Goulia. A lot of you will also know my beautiful partner. Dr. Bob, if you're on the call, could you mute everyone if possible? I think you'll be able to from your end, and I'll just unmute.
Yeah, now I just muted you too. So I will unmute you. Now you're good. How's that sound?
Perfect. So my name's Steve Goulia. I have the most beautiful partner in Miss Sarah Moxham, who a lot of you will also know. And we're very, very fortunate to have this call tonight for many reasons. But the person you're going to hear from tonight is someone that came into our lives pretty much from an unfortunate circumstance, which I'd hate to say was a blessing, but it actually was. The incredible Mr. Pete Cohen, who's a very dear friend of ours. I met him in a gym one day, and he told me the story of his beautiful wife, Hannah, who suffered with a stage 3 brain tumor. And they had to go to Houston, Texas to get some treatment. And while they were there, they met someone who was a god. There's no other word to explain it in the health industry. And Mr. Pete Cohen had said to me, do you care about your health? And I said, well, I'm a personal trainer, Pete. I hope I care about my health. And he said, look, there's someone I'd love you to hear from. He mentioned Dr. Robert Rakowski, and straight away, as we do, I Googled him and saw that he'd mentored some of the best names in the health industry, and Charles Poliquin, Paul Chek, Owen LaCour. I saw that he worked with top-level athletes, but more importantly, I saw that he'd helped so many people through natural medicine get back to prime and optimum health, all sorts of conditions, all sorts of diseases. He's a kinesiologist. He's a chiropractor. He's a qualified holistic nutritionist. He's actually also an engineer, but more than anything, he's a servant. He's a servant of people. He's a servant to who he is. He's a servant to his family, and we're so fortunate to be able to work alongside him. So those of you who are on the call tonight, please keep your eyes open, but more importantly, keep your ears open, because what you're going to hear tonight is someone talking about something that has changed our lives more than we can even put into words. And I just encourage you to listen carefully, because what you might hear tonight may change maybe yours or someone else's that you care about. So, Dr. Bob, if you can hear me, please take it away. Thank you very much for your time. It's always an honor to share any kind of platform with you.
Thanks, Steve. I'm going to go ahead and share a screen with your beautiful partner's picture on it. And give me a thumbs up if you can see that. You can see that well. So we're going to talk about health predominantly and a little bit about wealth as we move forward. Sarah messaged me this morning, and apparently a lot of people in the UK are getting hit with, like a lot of people here in the US, with some type of cold or flu or illness, which, by the way, all too often happens around this holiday season. Believe it or not, the top 2 enemies of the immune system are stress and sugar. And for too many people, the holiday season is more stressful than we want it to be. And certainly, I think most people get way too much sugar at that period of time. So we're going to focus heavily on the health. And I'm going to lead in with a little quote from a guy named Gary Keller, because I really like his book, The One Thing. And he asks repeatedly throughout this book, what is the one thing that you can do that in doing so would make everything else in your world either easier or unnecessary? And the reality is most of us can pick out one thing that we could do that would make a bigger difference than anything else. But in terms of health, if we make health really easy, really convenient, really delicious, and really fun, then I think more people are going to move towards it. And we'll talk a little later how this idea has really taken the world of business by storm. as the company Organo that has now created the world's healthiest gourmet coffee, tea, and shakes, actually crossed $1 billion in sales faster than Apple computers, than Facebook, than IBM, than eBay, which is pretty amazing. Google did it just a little faster than them, but you look at it, it's a pretty amazing record there. So if we're going to talk about health, I always like to tell people the only way to have health is to earn health. And you do that by what I've termed the Magnificent Seven. You've got to eat right, drink right, think right, move right, sleep right, poop right, talk right every single day. So when it comes to eating right, we have the top superfood on the planet, which I'll share with you the details on that in just a moment. But we have it infused in delicious weight management shakes that actually have grass-fed organic whey protein. So here's a picture of a beautiful woman who lost 48 pounds by, as she would say, consuming dessert on a daily basis. Because the shakes actually taste like liquid birthday cake is the closest description I've seen. So when we start looking at superfoods, one thing I like to tell people is that superfoods have a really high concentration of nutrition. And in fact, this superfood, Ganoderma, is considered the top superfood on the planet. With just a little bit of information, per unit volume of concentration, it's got more vitamin C than oranges, more calcium than milk, more iron than spinach, more magnesium than broccoli, more omega-3 than tuna. It is a complete protein, and it has more protein than beans. It also has over 190 identified molecules that have been subject to now over 2,000 peer-reviewed medical studies, making it the most studied herb right now on planet Earth. So when it comes to drinking right, I think most people realize that our Earth is about 2/3 water, our body's about 2/3 water, and about 2/3 of that water should be inside of our cells. And reality is most people walk around a little bit dehydrated. So they have a question, what kind of water should I drink? Should I drink vitamin water, alkaline water, antioxidant water, oxygenated water, smart water, energy water, whatever type of waters there are out there? And as I like to tell them, if they put Ganoderma, our coffee or tea, in their cup of water, they now have all those things combined. It's got all the fabulous 50, all the vitamins, minerals, amino acids, proteins, carbohydrates, fat, fiber, and water. It's considered the most alkaline herb on planet Earth, super high level of antioxidants within it. It actually increases oxygen delivery within the body, and it does it by having a chemical within it called nitrates, or I should really call it a nutrient. It's called nitrates. Nitrates become in the body something called nitric oxide, which actually dilate blood vessels. Since the brain is the most nutrient-dependent, energy-dependent system of the body, it is certainly smart water. When we get to the brain in a few moments, you'll see that Ganoderma is really, really good for the brain, including making us happy, making us more calm, making us more focused, even helping us sleep better. And of course, energy water, we know that life is energy. And reality is our brain uses more energy than anything else. Ganoderma is proven to cross the blood-brain barrier and enhance brain energy as well as body energy. And so now we'll get into think right. I like this quote from Einstein. He says, if you can't explain it simply, you just don't understand it well enough. Well, realistically, sometimes we complicate things beyond what they need to be. Adding Ganoderma to any beverage is going to make it healthier and probably the healthiest on the planet. So I find it amazing that if we ask people to change their brand of coffee or tea by putting the most healthy thing in it, suddenly they want to research 10, 20, 30, 40, or 50 articles rather than just realizing, wow, okay, you put something healthy in coffee and tea, it's going to get healthier. But that's our human tendency to think right. So when it comes to Ganoderma, it's literally proven to enhance the brain chemical called serotonin. Serotonin is known to most people as the happy chemical. It increases the neurotransmitter dopamine. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter of focus. It actually increases acetylcholine, which is the neurotransmitter of memory, and GABA, which is the most calming neurotransmitter on planet Earth. If we're going to go on an expanded brain session, brand new data in 2017 actually shows that Ganoderma dissolves the plaque in the brain that's associated with Alzheimer's disease and actually induces stem cells, which can lead to brain and body cell regeneration. But we've gone through eat right, the superfood, drink right, making our water better, think right, making our brain more nourished, more alkaline, more better focused and concentrated. Now we'll get to move right. And I'll have to thank Pete Cohen, who Steve mentioned in this call, for introducing me to this incredible Irishman, Stevie McEwen, who actually ran 100 marathons in 100 straight days, and he got faster every step along the way. When I did the nutrition consult with him, I shared this study with him that actually showed that when they gave endurance athletes the combination of Ganoderma and cordyceps, which, by the way, is in our red tea, it actually dramatically improved their performance. Now, how did it do that? It alkalized their body, it controlled their inflammatory process, it helped them recover through deeper sleep, but it also improved the body's level of testosterone while reducing the stress hormone cortisol. So really, really powerful there. So we know it works really well for elite athletes, but now let's talk about people that don't move well because they're in pain. So in the US, we call this condition fibromyalgia. In Europe, they call it ME, but basically it's people that have aches and pains all over their body, severe pain, very low energy. Medicine doesn't know what to do with them, so they literally give them antidepressants and painkillers, and none of the people get better. So this was actually a 6-week study where they gave these really tough cases Ganoderma, and in that period of time, every person in the study had dramatic reduction in pain. I like to share this study because it's actually a study where they compared Ganoderma to the strongest drug for pain control of rheumatoid arthritis, and Ganoderma had better pain relief. So as I tell people, you know, drugs work by one mechanism and usually have dozens of side effects. Ganoderma has 4 anti-inflammatory mechanisms, an immune modulating mechanism, meaning it can actually calm down the attack of rheumatoid arthritis, and dozens of other health benefits. Certainly when we look at elite athletes, they understand their bodies, they understand how to move, and some of them even understand business. So 2 of the elite athletes that have joined our Organo team, Greg Norman, one of the 20th richest athletes of all time, made his fortune in golf, and Manny Pacquiao, who is the fighter of the last decade and also one of the top athletes of all time. They just literally had a big improvement in their well-being from 1 cup of coffee and decided to invest in the company. So we've gone through eat right, drink right, think right, move right. Now we'll get to sleep right, which is a big problem for a big portion of our world. So literally, this is a study that showed that people that took Ganoderma fell asleep faster, slept deeper longer, and literally woke up more refreshed. And Ganoderma does that by promoting a brain chemical called GABA, which is really, really calming to the brain. So this is a study that literally says that Ganoderma has anti-epileptic properties. Now, what does that mean? I tell people that epilepsy or seizures are just basically nerve spasms. And there are actually brain chemicals that calm the nervous system. GABA is the most potent brain chemical to calm that. And Ganoderma is known to increase GABA so much that not only do people sleep deep, but they can also recover from seizure. So this is a real fun story. In the middle of this picture is a woman named Michelle Jerez. She had suffered a head injury where she was having massive convulsive seizures multiple times a day in spite of taking more than 10 different doses of seizure medications every single day. She happened to have a seizure at the Toronto airport, and Fire Captain Brian Figuera was there. After they got her on a stretcher and was getting ready to wheel her out, Captain said, you know what, I may have something that could help you. And he literally put one of his business cards in her pocket. So after she got out of the hospital, recovered, got home, she called him. She said, hey, what can help? He says, look, I got this coffee and tea and nutrients that are proven to help seizures. Why don't you try it? She said, you know what? I have nothing to lose. I'll give it a shot. So now Michelle has reduced her seizure medication by over 90% and has not had seizures in months. So she literally has a goal of getting 300 people seizure-free by next year. And sure enough, I was actually doing this meeting for her in Canada, and we signed up one of her doctors who said, okay, I know this stuff works. I've seen it work in Michelle. Other patients can benefit. So you just never know where one little cup of coffee can go. So next is poop right, and that's kind of a strange word. In the UK, you use the word poo, but literally I'm talking about detoxifying right. And that's really important because right now the World Health Organization says that 1/4 of all illness on planet Earth is related to environmental toxins. So the Greek goddess of good health, her name was actually Hygeia. I usually have a little build on there and move that out of the way. And people need to realize that we've known for centuries that cleanliness is next to godliness. So in this particular study, they gave rats a very toxic dose of Tylenol, which would basically kill a whole bunch of the rats. Then they gave the rats the same toxic dose of Tylenol, but pre-dosed them with Ganoderma. Amazingly, not a single rat in the study died with this toxic dose, and none of them even had an elevation of liver enzymes. So Ganoderma is known to protect against some of the most toxic liver compounds out there, as well as some of the most toxic kidney compounds. So we use a chemotherapy in medicine called cisplatin, and one of the side effects of cisplatin is often kidney failure. So they gave patients that were undergoing chemotherapy Ganoderma, which, by the way, they had a better overall outcome from the remedy, but in addition, they did not have any damage to their kidneys. So in Canada, they actually have a claim that they're allowed to put on the bottles, and Canada requires it actually, they term Ganoderma an immune enhancer. So what does that mean, immune enhancer? Some people think that automatically means pick the immune system up, but no, sometimes it means calm the immune system down. So if the body's having an overattack against foreign particles, sometimes we call that an allergy, Ganoderma can calm that down. And in fact, that's one of the best stories in my own family. Both my wife, Kelly, and my son, Jacob, had severe seasonal allergies that have completely resolved it. We talked about rheumatoid arthritis, which is in one of many hundreds of medical conditions in the category of autoimmune. Ganoderma is known to calm down the immune system in those circumstances. By picking up the immune system, Ganoderma can help to kill off viruses, bacteria, yeast, parasites, fungus, etc. But some of the more potent viruses out there that it's really known to be active against, one is the HIV virus. There's a medical study that shows that Ganoderma prevents replication of the HIV virus. I have a video of a woman who completely got rid of HPV, the human papilloma virus, when it pushed her nearly to the edge of cervical cancer and doctors were recommending a hysterectomy. There's a study that shows that if people take this for 60 straight days, 88% of them will clear HPV. When it comes to bad bacteria, in the States we have one which is called MRSA. It's actually spelled MRSA, and that's an acronym for methicillin-resistant Staph aureus. It's a very tough antibiotic-resistant form of bacteria that kills over 100,000 people a year in U.S. hospitals. So Ganoderma is known to kill that form of staph. And it's also proven against 11 different types of cancer. So in the medical literature, so far they've named leukemia, lymphoma, multiple myeloma, breast cancer, inflammatory breast cancer, prostate cancer, melanoma, cervical cancer, colorectal cancer, and pancreatic cancer as Ganoderma, all having very positive effects against it. So some people might say, okay, if it's got all this good, where's the bad to it? And reality is there's no known toxicity. So they don't test toxin studies in humans, so they did it in animals. And if they gave a 100-pound dog the equivalent of 4,000 doses of Ganoderma every day for about 2 weeks, there were no toxic signs or symptoms. So literally, just by changing a few of our habits, coffee, tea, shakes, etc., we can give us a superfood that literally qualifies to help all of us eat right, drink right, think right, move right, sleep right, poop right, talk right every single day. We'll open up to some questions after we're done with this, but just a few things about the business. Kelly and I have had a real successful business career, my wife, Kelly. And, you know, we've had really great mentors. And certainly when you look at an investment opportunity, the best of the best say, okay, if you're going to make an investment in a company, is the company stable? Do they have a unique product? Is there a big enough market? Is it profitable? And guess what? One of the questions is if it's easy, because if it's complicated, that's a barrier to growth. So here, one of the things I mentioned in the intro is that Organo, the company, literally crossed $1 billion in sales faster than Facebook, Apple, eBay, Microsoft, McDonald's, you name it. They were one of the fastest in history. And literally, this is their corporate headquarters that they bought with cash. Company has no debt whatsoever. Do they have a unique product? Sure. They've literally patented the process that allows them to put the Ganoderma in their coffee and tea such that that can't be duplicated. So now, when we start looking at the market, when you start looking at coffee, it's actually estimated that the world consumes over 1 trillion cups of coffee every 2 years. A few years ago, coffee surpassed oil as the #1 commodity on planet Earth. So amazingly, when you look at these stacks of money here, this is actually what $1 trillion would look like. And that's hard for people to imagine, even with the scale of it taking up a full street in Washington, D.C. And you see the pallets in the truck there. But literally, if you go back to the time Jesus was born, which was over 2,000 years ago, if you spent $1 million a day since the day Jesus was born, you still wouldn't have even been close to having spent $1 billion or $1 trillion. So pretty powerful there. So Shane Moran is one of the major leaders in this company. And before they had any great packaging or marketing or anything like that, he would just go around and ask people, look, what if it's true that our coffee tastes as good or better than anything that's out there? What if it's true that our coffee is significantly less expensive? Basically 1/3 the price of Starbucks if you're a wholesale buyer. What if it's true that our coffee is more convenient? Just add hot water instead of going down the street to a store and waiting in line. And what if it's true that our coffee has nearly unmatched health benefits? And by the way, all those 4 factors are true. He said, would it be reasonable that in a period of 4 or 5 years that we would be able to get about 1%, capture 1% of the world coffee market? 1 of 100 coffee drinkers. Do you think that they would want to switch to a healthier choice, even if it weren't as delicious as it is? And I can tell you that we don't have any problem getting people to switch over to this better brand. But literally, I had an economics professor in my class that I was talking in Montreal, and I asked him, I said, Professor, what would your life be like if you had 1% of the world coffee market? And he said, Bob, I would have Bill Gates type money. So we spent some time talking about coffee. I slightly mentioned tea and shakes. They also have energy drinks, detox drinks, and capsules. For instance, I was at the Organo convention last fall, and there's a gentleman on stage that would literally take a whole bottle of the Ganoderma spores every single day, and he was using that to beat a pretty aggressive prostate cancer and was getting way ahead of the game. So I have used high-dose nutraceuticals for some really sick patients and have had some really good outcomes. So in terms of the business, there's really 3 things that we do. Number 1, we use the products. Easy enough. We switch our coffee and tea to a better choice. Soap, toothpaste, same thing. Detox drink, energy drinks, shakes. Easy to consume that literally on a regular basis. Number 2, we recommend the products. We get people to try them. And then the 3rd thing we do is what you're doing here, literally just taking a look at the opportunity. And by the way, I like to use that term, just take a look. So no risk on anybody's part. If they say, look, I'm not interested in another business, that's fine. Just take a look. Look at what we have, and maybe you can help me help somebody else. So when I present this to someone, I ask them, I say, look, given our competitive advantage, our market, everything else, do you think if you really, really tried, you could find 5 people who would be interested in building and growing this business? And most people say, yes, they could. So the math of this is pretty simple, right? If you actually find 5 people, and let's say it takes you 6 months to do that, find 5 people that want to grow the business, the next step is to teach those 5 to do what you did, and that's actually get 5. So over the next 6 months, now you've added 25 people to your business for a total of 30. We do it again. Those 25 each get 5. They've added 125 more. Now you're at 155 people. They do it again. You've added 625 more people. Now you're at 780. And by the way, we could stop there and talk about the kind of money you'd be making, but let's just go one more level. And the next level, you add over 3,000 people to your team. Now, by the time you add everything from there up, you're at approximately 4,000 people on your team. And we'll do that just to make the math really, really easy. So if every one of those 4,000 people literally just bought 2 boxes of coffee a day, nothing else, no soap, no toothpaste, no shakes, if none of them had a customer at all, each box of coffee has a commission that it pays of $15. So 2 boxes times 15, you're getting commissions on $30 per person, times 4,000 people. That's $120,000 a month that the company is actually paying commissions on to you and your organization. So the average person in Organo actually gets between 8 and 12% of their total team volume. At 10% of $120,000 a month, that would be $12,000 a month, or $144,000 a year. And literally, that's how this business builds. And by the way, my son Jacob, who started in this business at age 18, literally had no experience, no people skills, no network, but yet over the course of a handful of years, he built a team in excess of that 4,000, and by his 21st year of life, had his first $100,000 a year. So 2 more comments on the business, and then we'll turn it over to questions. I like to ask people, if the business makes sense to you, on the exact same amount of effort, would you rather earn half as much or twice as much? Period. Same effort involved. And most people say twice as much. So the company has created what they call accelerator packs. So literally everybody can join the business for $50. You get a website that's open in over 50 countries instantly. But if you want to increase your profitability, now we have a lot of people from the UK on here. The UK, everybody has to start out at a bronze pack, and the total for their bronze pack and their website is less than 200 pounds. After a period of time, they can upgrade. After a period of 1 week, they can upgrade to a silver pack, which now in the US is $450 US. You get that much in inventory, and they'll literally will pay you a time and a half as much as you build your team. Or if you're like me, you see the opportunity, you say, you know what, I want to get paid the most right away. You can start at a gold pack. And there you get paid more than twice as much. And again, you get more than $1,200 worth of products to jumpstart your business. So one of my great mentors is a guy named Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn is the guy that launched Tony Robbins, but he literally became a millionaire in the 1960s in this business model selling vitamins. And he would literally go around to people and ask them, hey, have you found the opportunity that will take care of you and your family for the rest of your life? Most people look at him and they'd be a little bit confused. So he'd hand them a business card and he'd say, look, I have such an opportunity. I'm partnered with multiple multimillionaires. If you want to learn about such an opportunity, come talk to me. And literally, that's how he would get people to show up to see a presentation. And his presentation, after he'd finish with these 4 questions. First question is why? So for those of you in Europe, you're taking some great time out of your evening. For those of you other than Europe, it might be middle of day, but why did you give up that time? So his second question is actually the answer to the first. Why not? Why not look at something that literally every sip of this that you put in your body gives you nutrition to move your body to a greater state of health? Third question is why not you? Someone's going to make sense of this. They're going to use it to enhance their own health, the health of their family, and maybe the health of a whole community if they share enough of it. And the final question is why not now? So the longer you wait to act on information, the least likely you are to act on it. So everybody was invited to this call by somebody. And what I'd recommend is that you go back to them and say, you know what, this makes sense. Let me get started if you're ready to start the business. If not, give it the challenge. Get a box or 2 of product, drink it, realize the health benefits. And if you're like most of us, you'll be ready and eager to share at that point. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to questions. Does anybody have any questions about anything? If you do, you'll literally have to unmute yourself in order to speak. So any questions from anybody about anything? Trying to see if I can even see a hand waved or something like that. Sometimes we have that option.
Hey, Dr. Bob, I have a question.
Go for it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's always a pleasure to hear what you have to say. I've got beautiful Sarah here with me.
Hey, beautiful Sarah.
That's actually her name now, by the way. It's changed from Sarah to beautiful Sarah. That's what we call her all the time.
That's what I've always known her as. So, okay. I'm glad it's official now.
I'd love to know, because I've never asked you this question, but when, obviously the story I was saying at the start of Mr. Pete and beautiful Hannah coming to see you at the very start, obviously Hannah, prior to that, had been told not to drink coffee because regular coffee can be acidic, right?
Yep.
She said one of the most profound things was hearing you say you can drink this coffee. Could you explain why this coffee is different and why people who normally would struggle with regular coffee, in terms of people that have cancer or different kinds of inflammation and illnesses, why this coffee is, a much better choice?
Sure. I'll address that in multiple different ways. So my history in nutrition has been a long, long time, and there's been some debate about coffee, which has come and gone. So when I would put people on a detox, I would literally pull them off of coffee. And it was the one recommendation of my entire 25 years of clinical practice that I had the absolute worst compliance with. People said, you can take away anything, but you're not taking away my coffee. So I tried to get them to reduce the amount. Well, finally, it got to the point where as a practitioner, it's really easy. I'd say, look, your choice is healthy coffee or no coffee. Well, for a coffee drinker, that's an easy choice. They're going to choose the healthy coffee. And so when you look at the health benefits, what happens, cancer is actually set up by, and I'll take a slight tangent because I had a failing, I don't want to use the word failing. I have a cancer patient that was in this morning that has not done well with medical therapy. And I literally asked him, I says, hey, how does a hurricane start? Because that's the best question I was ever asked that helped me to understand the cancer process. And he said, I don't know and I don't understand the question. I said, okay, well, a hurricane starts when conditions are just right. He said, okay, that makes sense. I said, how does the tornado start? He says, I guess same way. I said, how does cancer start? He says, now I understand why you're asking that. When conditions are right for cancer, cancer starts. I said, that's right. And the conditions of cancer are low oxygen, low nutrients, high acid, chronic inflammatory environment, and immune suppression secondary to chronic distress. Ganoderma increases the oxygen, increases the nutrients, alkalizes the body, controls the inflammatory process by 4 different known mechanisms, and is known to enhance the cells of the body that actually kill cancer. So that's why I recommend it for all my cancer patients. But now the other question, why do some people do better with this? So some people get the jitters from coffee followed by a crash. So the calming element of this, the GABA facilitator, is very, very calming to people to the point where it can even stop seizures. When we start talking about people not handling coffee, a lot of times it's the acidity that causes their gut a lot of problems. And therefore, this being alkaline actually is proven to enhance ulcer healing. So even if people have ulcers, they can take this and benefit from it. And then the third part with coffee is if people drink too much, they don't sleep well. So this can be the kind of thing where people still may need to watch what time of night they stop it. I actually happen to be one of those people. Previous coffee, I cut my coffee at noon. Now I can take this till about 4 in the afternoon and still be fine. But there's plenty of people that can drink this all the way up to bedtime and fall into deep sleep. So the calming effect, the alkaline effect, the smooth energy, and the overall brain relaxation is why most people choose this as a better choice.
Thank you so much. That's absolutely the best answer I could have ever hoped for.
Well, thanks for asking a good question. Any other questions?
I have a question there, Dr. Bob.
Go for it.
So just in relation to when you started in Organo, you were against the business model. Mm-hmm. And so I can understand, because I live in a little country called Ireland, which we've been in a few times. Mm-hmm. And people tend, the business model may be somewhat misrepresented over the years, and so it's difficult for people to get their head around the concept. So you obviously being against it for such a long time and then taking the dive in and doing very, very well in an alarmingly small amount of time per week over an extended period. I'd love to hear, what was the process you went through when you changed, and how do you explain it to other people?
Well, so the first process was I had no interest in the product at all because it was a network marketing product. I had that big a bias that I said, I'm not selling at my office. And my son had just dropped $1,300 on a gold pack. He said, Dad, at least check it out. And my comment was, I will check it out and I'll help you get your money back. So one of the slides that I didn't go through that really got my attention with this company is their quality certifications. So I've been in the nutrition industry 25 years. I've lectured for the world's largest nutrition company. I have not seen a single nutrition company that has all or even half of the certifications that Organo has. So I said, okay, it's a good product and I will share it with my patients, but there's no way I'm ever going to let them know that it's a network marketing product because that would be an embarrassment to me. Literally, that was my mindset originally. So I watched my son succeed. Literally 6 months into the business, he would not, Jacob's such a driven character. He'd go out and share coffee with 10 people a day minimum. 6 months into the business, he's driving a free Mercedes-Benz. So I got the idea that the business started to work and I started doing what I do, and that's researching the business model. To date, I've read well over 150 books on the network marketing business model. You only need to read a few or even one to understand that this model is real. But I just kept reading and reading and reading, and I kept looking for, okay, why is this not real? Why will this not work? And mentally, I was satisfied that, okay, the business model works. I see my son working it. I see that the product's good, but literally, I tell people that Jacob dragged me. It's not really physically dragged me, but he emotionally dragged me to an Organo event. It was one of their Project 50Ks, as they called them back then, and they rented out the Toyota Center. And I watched so many people go across stage telling their story about how their life changed, how they went from rags to riches, how they had no hope of even paying their light bill. And suddenly for $50 and a small product investment, they're partnered with multimillionaires. And suddenly they're crossing that stage, getting awards for $100,000 a year, $250,000, $500,000 a year. I said, oh, for crying out loud. Not only is this product great and the business model is real, but this company's made it so that the average man can do it. So I literally left that event and started calling people. And someone asked me this question the other day, and literally, I haven't stopped calling people since then. I think it's my duty, my moral obligation to share this. And so you will run into people that will have a negative impression of the industry. And I'll just let them, if I have a rapport with them, I'll ask them, I'll say, how well do you know me? And they'll say, I think pretty well. And how many foolish decisions have you known me to make in my life? And the reality is not many. I'm pretty calculated, right? My dumb stuff was in my teen years, like we all do, right? But in the last, 35 plus years of my life, I've made pretty good decisions. So I said, do you think, one, that I'd endorse this for my family, endorse it for my patients, and approach you who I love if it was a scam? And then they come to realize, okay, it is the real deal. It may not be for me, and it often isn't, but it's real. And so what I like to tell people is, look, your health is going to get better with every sip. You owe it to yourself to try it. And if the business isn't for you, someone who it is for, introduce them to me, and I'll be happy to mentor them to whatever level they want to get to. And, when you can know that you're offering something that has so much value on every level to humankind, it's that stance that makes it actually very easy to grow the business. It's unshakable. Great question, Lloyd.
Thanks for that, Dr. Bob.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay, so we have officially, thank you so much, beautiful Sarah. I'm going to change that in my phone as well. For inviting and setting up this. Thanks, Steve, for leading into the amazing intro. Thanks, everybody, for spending the part of the day. Your marching orders are, if you're not part of our team, join us. Let's start off 2018 best for you, and at very minimum, get the health benefit of these amazing products. Beautiful Sarah, did you want to finish with any other words?
We're muted. Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Bukowski. Just want to thank you again for your time. Thank you. I know this is your holiday season as well, and we just truly appreciate everything that you pour into us. I know you're so far away in distance, but being connected to the new schools is just utterly phenomenal. And every time we're on here, we learn something new and take copious notes. So yeah, thank you so much, Dr. We really appreciate you.
Thanks, everybody. This one, by the way, I did actually remember to hit the record button.
Oh, brilliant.
So if anybody wants a recording,
That'd be awesome.
Yes, please.
Post it in the group. Thank you all. Enjoy the beautiful.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.